All right, the term "a terrible decay of female health." We met Catherine Beecher before. Do you remember? She was in the discussion about Republican motherhood and education. She was the teacher, one of those early teachers, and she was one that had like that big long list of subjects. And we said women are getting an education, but they're not getting the same quality of education that their brothers are getting. So Catherine Beecher was out recruiting for schools, encouraging young women to join, hiring teachers, and she did an informal study. And she asked people, well, women, like, how are you feeling? And she went to some 200 different towns, and in all these towns, when she was asking women, how are you feeling? She reported back that in the majority of these towns, women said that they weren't feeling well. So out of about 200 towns, she said there were only 2 towns where a majority of women said they actually were feeling okay. In the other 198 towns, a majority of women said they weren't well. And so this led her to conclude that there is a terrible decay of female health. So that's where that quote comes from. And so then I've got 3 things underneath there on the outline for us to think about in terms of what's happening in women's health. So first is hysteria, second is the fistula, and third is corsets. So with the fistula, the main focus is Marion Sims and Ann Arca, who I've got a great interview for you to read about. And then corsets, I got a couple of really good videos I think you'll enjoy. Hysteria, I couldn't find anything online that I liked to kind of share with you, so I just explained it the way I did in class. So what happens is women are, these are white women, they're middle class, they're living that called domesticity, so they have everything that they should have, but they're sad. And they go to the doctor and they are presenting signs of being weepy and nervous and anxious, but there's no other kind of physical signs that are wrong with them. So all of the doctors in the 19th century will assume, because men don't seem to be experiencing these same things, but it's obviously the problem is a woman. It's her anatomy. So it's all that's connected to her womb. In fact, one doctor said something, I don't have the direct quote in front of me, but something along the lines of, it's as though, God made the womb and then built women around it. And this is also the period where doctors believed, they could, every stage of a woman's life would be treated. So, like when we were talking about menstruation earlier, and Native American women, it was seen as a source of power. And I mentioned that in the United States, it was seen as like medical condition women were deemed to be idiotic when they were on their periods. This is that period where doctors are diagnosing women as idiotic when they're menstruating. And so the thought is what's making women hysterical is also their womb. It has something to do with being a woman. It's always these women that are hysterical, and that's what needs to be treated. What I typically would ask students to think about is, what do you think is causing that hysteria? And we had just looked at, or in your homes, wherever it is you're doing your study, and you just looked at those images of women in goatees. And so when you look at those images of women in goatees, that perhaps is what's making them hysterical, right? Is these perceptions of how they have to behave, how they have to look, as perhaps what's making them feel nervous and anxious and weepy. It could also be biological. Women are having, on average, right? We said they're having smaller families now. In the era of the cultural domesticity, they're having on average, if they're white women, they're having on average 4 to 5 kids instead of 6 to 8 kids. But still, 4 to 5 children that could be suffering from postpartum depression, which would not have been diagnosed at this point. But for many of them, it's not meeting the standards that society sets that's making them practical hysterical. One other just kind of fun fact, the removal of something is an ectomy. And so some of these ideas are still with us today. The woman has a hysterectomy. What has been removed is the source of hysteria, a hysterectomy. Something to think about. All right, if you have any questions, be sure and leave them in the discussion board. Take care.